Hi, so in this tutorial I'm going to demonstrate how to sync a video and an audio file when you've been using dual system sound. In this case we were shooting video on a DSLR, which also had its own audio file recorded but not a very good quality one, and then we recorded the audio using an EX1 camera. So we shot video and audio, but the audio on the EX1 camera was the good quality audio, and that's the audio we want to match with the DSLR video. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that our footage is well organized, which I've done here. You can see I've got all my EX1 clips and I've got my DSLR clips, and I can see I've labeled them EX scene 2 take 1, and here I've got DSLR scene 2 take 1 labeled in the, although it's not displaying for some reason, labeled in the log note. So the first thing to do, and this is important to do this first, is to drag your DSLR clip into your new sequence. And the reason you drag that in first is because I'll show you. As I let go of it and drop it in, I get a note from Final Cut asking it to, it says for best performance your sequence should be set to the format of the clips you're editing, and do I want to change the sequence settings to match the clip? And I say yes, because I want the sequence settings to match the DSLR clip settings, not the EX1 clip settings. So that's done, but I always like to double check, so I go sequence settings, and I check it's 1920 by 1080, pixel aspect is square, field dominance is none, Apple ProRes 422 is the compressor, so everything looks good. 48 kilohertz is important in the audio settings. Click OK. Then I'm going to move the DSLR clip onto the top track because I want the DSLR video to be the visible track, and I'm going to grab my EX1 clip, scene 2 take 1, and I'm going to drop it in underneath. So you can see that it's been put in there. And something I like to do is view the waveforms. It sometimes helps. So Apple Option W shows me all my waveforms. So the first thing to do is find the slate. These clips have all been slated, and that's how we're going to match it. The first thing to do is find the slate on the video file, which is going to be the DSLR clip. So I scroll through until I see the slates there, and it just went. So I go do. Okay, so I'm ignoring the audio right now. I'm just looking for the video. When does that slate? So you can hear all kinds of audio happening in the background. Actually, the DSLR records its own audio and it records it out of sync. So I don't use that as a reference at all. I don't find it very useful. So since I'm looking for where the slate hits on the video, I'm only focused on video right now. So I look, where does that slate hit? Boom. I can go frame by frame by using my arrow keys, and I see that it goes down right there. So when I see it go down, when I'm on that frame that it hit down, I select my DSLR clip and I press M. And you'll see what that does is that creates a marker on it, which I'm going to use later. Then what I do is I'm going to hide the video clip for the DSLR, and I'm going to turn off the audio for the DSLR. And make sure you choose the right audio to turn off, because now we're going to go to the audio for the EX, because we want to find where we hear the sound of the slate on the good quality audio. So the EX is our good quality audio, and now we're focused on sound, so we're really ignoring the video. The video is not important. I can use the video to get an idea where the slate is. I can see the slates here, so I find that useful, but I'm ignoring the video for the most part. I'm listening for when the sound happens. And this is where I can use the waveform. I can see there that it happens. So when I hear the sound on that frame, okay, now I select my EX1 clip, I've heard the sound, and I put my marker there. And then what it's done is it's put a marker on the EX1 clip. So now what I do is I turn on the DSLR video again, and I'm going to make this a little small. I'm going to select my EX1 track. I'm going to make sure that I've selected the video and audio. I'm going to make sure snapping is on, which is N, which turns snapping on and off. And I'm going to move it over so that my markers link up. And when snapping is on, boom, it locks into place, which is very useful. So once it's locked into place, I let go, and I should be good to go. So then I make sure I've got my DSLR video track, oops, didn't mean to do that. I got my DSLR video track enabled. I'm going to turn off the EX1 video track, even though I don't really have to. And I've got my EX1 audio track enabled, and I'm going to play it through. And look at that, works perfectly.
Scene 2, take 1.
Boom. And I always like to go through frame by frame just to make sure it's exactly right. So So I'm going through, and you can see when I go to that frame where it hits, I also hear the sound. So that means I've done it properly. And then I always like to just go and look at a bit of the audio.
This is where I grew up, and I
Looks
have a lot of
good.
great memories here, and I plan to create lots more memories.
Excuse me. So I'm happy. And now the next step, the final step, is to export the video, and there's a couple of important steps here. First, make sure your video track is the right one and the audio track is the right one. And then go into your sequence settings again, very important step here. Audio outputs, see it's set to stereo. I want to make sure it's set to dual mono. What that means is that my two tracks, track 1 and track 2 of audio, which one was recorded with a boom, one was recorded with a wireless, that's going to make sure that those two tracks are separated out and I can adjust them separately. If I left it on stereo, basically those tracks would get mixed and I wouldn't be able to adjust them separately, which is bad. So make sure it's set to dual mono. Okay, that's done. And then all I have to do, it's just asking me to autosave, but I don't care about that. All I have to do is export this sequence. So I'm going to export it. Oops, sorry. Export QuickTime Movie. Export QuickTime Movie. I'm going to put this on the desktop and I'm going to call it Scene 2 Take 1. Make sure it's labeled well. You know, her name is Cassie. So Cassie, Scene 2 Take 1. And I'm going to call it Synced so that I know that it's a synced file. And I'm going to save it to my desktop. But you're going to create a folder where you save all these synced files so that they're all in the same place in folders organized by the people or by the setup. And make sure the movie is self-contained is clicked down here. Make sure that's checked. Everything else leave, current settings, everything just leave it the same. Recompress all frames doesn't have to be ticked. So just make movie self-contained. And then I go save. And then I wait. And then it's going to start exporting. And sometimes it takes a bit of time. So, you know, you can look up